Was this inevitable? Sheffield United sack manager Paul Heckingbottom after 14 games in the Premier League and reappoint former manager Chris Wilder to take over in charge on an 18-month contract. Was this inevitable? Ever since Sheffield United got promoted to the Premier League, not a lot of people have given them a hope at all to staying in the league, and so far they haven't showed any signs of their ability to be able to do exactly that. They are currently placed rock bottom of the league in 20th place on 5 points, 2 points off Burnley, 2 points off Everton, however, most importantly, 4 points off Luton Town in 17th place, who are outside the relegation zone. Can Chris Wilder come in and do a job, and do a better job than Paul Heckingbottom? And this is a tough one, really, because I don't think that, Paul Heckingbottom could have done any more in terms of the fact that he put out a team that he thought he could win week in, week out, but the players just haven't been performing. And the main issue that he's had is that the players haven't been fighting. If you look at Rob Edwards and Luton Town, the players have been fighting for everything, absolutely everything, and you can never doubt that when they go on the pitch, that they give their all, they give 100%, and they play with their heart in their sleeve, with the club in mind, and go out there to try and get 3 points, or at least hope to try and get 3 points, or give themselves a fighting chance. With Sheffield United, it has been very lackluster. I mean, they've only scored 11 goals all season from 14 games, one on an average less than a goal a game. They've conceded 39 goals in 14 games. 39 goals in 14 games, which hasn't simply been good enough. That's almost averaging 3 goals a game. That was very, very poor. And that's the issue that I have, is that I don't know if Sheffield United, what the game plan was going to be. Was it going to be we're going to try and outscore opposition, or was it going to be we're going to try and keep them out of our own net? Because at the end of the day, you can't have a leaky defence and a front line that isn't scoring. I mean, if you have both of those things at the same time, you're just asking for trouble completely. And Sheffield United have that. At least with some other sides, you can say, okay, they've at least got a solid defence and the forwards aren't quite scoring the goals that they need. Or you can say, oh, the forwards are scoring lots of goals, that's fine, but they're conceding a lot as well. But when you have both at the same time, I think it causes Sheffield United, and it caused Paul Heckingbottom to have a lot of issues, and it ultimately cost him his job as well. I think, I do think, though, was this inevitable? Yes, to an extent, because of the fact that when you have the transfer window that Sheffield United had, which was just not good enough, and really set them up for failure going into the season, to be completely honest. I think when you lose your talisman and your best player and forward player in Element and Die, who's going to go get you a lot of goals, get you a lot of assists, maybe not as many as he did in the Championship last year. However, to sell him to Marseille, I can understand it because of the fact that he had a 1-year contract left, and it's a real 50-50 of, do you keep him at the club for one more year, hoping that he keeps you up, but ultimately you're going to lose for free at the end of next year, or do you sell him and then hope get as much money as possible and try and replace him with that money? In hindsight now, it's really obvious to say that, you should have kept him and Die, because at the moment in time that they placed him with Cameron Archer, who he's a very young lad. He's got a lot of potential, and I think he's going to be great one day. He could be a very solid Premier League player and score maybe a dozen goals or so in the league on a regular basis. However, at this moment in time, he's very young, he's raw, and he's not being able to do the job, and he's not getting the support from the rest of his teammates either. So with hindsight, it's got to say you'd rather would have kept him. And then also when you lose to the likes of Sanderberg in midfield, your best midfielder, you sell him, and then you sell him to your relegation rival as well. Burnley need to promote it alongside you, and you think to yourself, okay, no, it's fine. They put in a good offer. We're going to sell him. Burnley, who could have potentially been your rival. A lot of people say they're going to do a lot better than they have been doing this season. But ultimately, they're only 2 points ahead of you, and Sanderberg could be a massive part of that. And I think that the signings that they did bring in general, I think there's, they're all good players. Like Gustavo Hamer, I really, really like. I think he did a fantastic job at Coventry last year, and I think it was time for him to step up into the Premier League. But maybe not with Sheffield United, because of the fact that they don't have the players around him to be able to facilitate having a player adjust into life in the Premier League when the whole team is adjusting to the Premier League. So that's why I'm asking, was this inevitable? Did the transfer window go so horribly wrong for Sheffield United that Paul Heckingbottom was eventually going to be sacked no matter what? I think coming into the season, if they worked their socks off and if they gave 100%, then maybe they could get a few more results than they have done. But they're not even doing that, and that's why I think Heckingbottom had to have gone. Because of the fact that at least if Chris Wilder comes in, he will motivate his players and he will get them to do a job. However, they did look okay, I think, Sheffield United at the beginning of the season. I mean, I think they were running a lot, they were fighting, they were, putting themselves about. And I think in the first 5 games, they were doing really well. I mean, if you only think back to, I think it was the third game of the season for Sheffield United, when they lost 2-1 at home to Manchester City. They were so close to drawing that game. That could have been a turning point for them. That could have given them the confidence that they needed to know that we belong in this league. We're not just here to make up the numbers. But if it wasn't for the fact that they conceded that late Rodri goal so late on in the game, then, it could have been different for them. And then the first 5 games, they did really well. But I think that 6th game, that Newcastle at home, that 8-0, I think it really, really dampened their confidence. And it, when you're a team who aren't getting results and then all of a sudden the whole squad is depleted of confidence, I think it just reeked of, we're not sure we deserve to be here, rather than, no, okay, we're going to step up and we're going to show everyone we do belong to be here. That was a one-off. They subsequently lost games 5-0 to Arsenal away to home. Obviously, when a new Premier side, that can happen. But they also lost 5-0 to Burnley. And that's it, because I have to commend the Sheffield United owners, because I think the sacking of Heckingbottom has come at the right time, just about. There's an argument maybe to be made that you could have sacked him earlier. However, before the international break, Sheffield United did beat Wolves at home 2-1, and they did draw away to Brighton. And I know maybe you could say they're not the best teams in the world at the moment in time. Wolves, who are not too far away from the drop zone either, getting a few more points, and Brighton, who have had a plethora of injuries and are really got a threadbare squad. But they did get this points before the international break, and it'd be interesting to see if the international break hadn't have occurred. Would Sheffield United have been on a run going into these 2 vital games against Bournemouth and against Burnley? So I think they needed more points from these 2 games. You couldn't have got none from these games. If you got none, I think we've seen that Paul Heckingbottom got sacked. I think that was deserved. But if you got 4 or if you got 6, then not only do you get those points for yourselves, but you take them off your relegation rivals as well. And I think that could have been so huge. But I think after 14 games in the league, I think Heckingbottom's had a fair crack at it. And I think he can go and say, you know what, I got given enough time. I don't think he can be too hard done by, apart from the transfer window. But that's an ongoing issue in terms of Sheffield United and their owners and the way they run the club anyway, which is one of the reasons why Chris Wilder left, which is why I'm surprised he's come back. But when you think about the fact that Chris Wilder, the jobs he's been linked to prior to coming back to Sheffield United, I mean, he's being linked to the League One clubs. He's had 2 spells now in the Championship after leaving Sheffield United for the first time that were underwhelming, really, if we're being honest. And so the fact that he's come back and the fact that he can have a Premier League job is the best I think he could have done. But it's also, I think, the best arguably that Sheffield United could have done. Because I think with this squad, at this moment in time, they just aren't good enough on paper to be able to stay in the Premier League. Can Wilder whip them up into shape and get them to, cause a few upsets and by just outworking the opposition? Yes, I think he can. Can he do such a good job that, you end up getting more points than Everton, Burnley, Luton? Probably not more points than Everton. I think they have too much quality. Can you get more points than Burnley and Luton? Arguably, yes, you could, potentially. But it's going to be a big ask. And, I think the owners of Sheffield United have made the sacking at the right time, because it now gives Chris Wilder 4 games before the transfer window opens. He's got Liverpool at home, Aston Villa away, Luton at home, and Manchester City away. He's got 2 games, Liverpool at home, Aston Villa away. I think they're going to really struggle, but there might be a new manager bound, so you never know. I mean, I think under Paul Heckingbottom, you expect to lose those games, Sheffield United fans. I mean, probably, if you're being honest. Luton at home could be absolutely massive. That is the game that's going to be so crucial to the Roars the rest of the season. And Sheffield United, you have to target that game. Use Liverpool, use Aston Villa. Go out there with intention to win those games and give it your all. But with one eye on Luton and thinking to yourself, right, we need to know how Chris Wilder wants to play. A lot of these players he's already managed from his previous tenure at the club. But that Luton one is the one you have to win. Because if you get 3 points at home, get your fans back on side, and then you also take 3 points off Luton, that all of a sudden, that 4-point gap between you and Luton at the moment could be even less, or you could even end up leapfrogging them depending on what results go your way until then. And then they have Manchester City, which I think most people expect to be a defeat, if we're being honest. And then there's not a Premier League game because of the winter break until January 21st. So if you've got 4 games under your belt, and if you include the 5th game away to Gillingham in the FA Cup, you've got 5 games until January 21st. You've then got 3 weeks of the transfer window as well. And then if you're not too far away, come that next game towards the end of January in the league, and then you've still got half the season to go, then there is a potential for something to happen. But I think it really does depend on, 1, the transfer window, 2, Chris Wilder being able to get something out of this set of players, which I think is really tough, but they could do it. And then you just need a bit of luck. And I think, honestly, luck is going to play a huge part in it. I think whichever way the VAR decisions are going to swing, whichever way the injuries are going to swing, and whichever way that it just happens to fall, and whoever has momentum come the end of the season, it's just going to go it could be Sheffield United's season, and they could end up getting out of it. It definitely won't be the great escape, because, it's not, they're still in touching distance, which I can't believe at this moment in time. Still only 4 points off, playing Luton in 3 games' time. There is a chance. And I think while Paul Heckingbottom did a very good job joining in November 2021, getting the club promoted, I think this is as far as he could have taken them. And I think, Sheffield United fans should be grateful for the job he's done. But I think Chris Wilder coming in at this moment in time is the right decision to be made. The only thing I will say, though, is I don't think he should be given an 18-month contract. I think maybe a contract till the end of the season. Because say Sheffield United do end up going down, I'm not necessarily sure he's the right manager to bring them back up. Because I think this season, already after 14 games has shown, Sheffield United with this playing squad cannot, compete in the Premier League. They absolutely cannot. So therefore, they need to have a bit of a reset. They need to bring in some new players. They need to, promote some of their youth players who they have a promising crop of, apparently. So I think it would have been best at the end of the season. I think it would have suited both Sheffield United and Chris Wilder. But I think the extra year was a bit of sentiment, and I don't think it was necessarily necessary. But we'll see how things go, because at the moment, all that matters is staying in the Premier League. This season, I don't think you need to rev the blueprint completely, but I do think that, the attitude and the work rate of these players needs to change massively. I think Chris Wilder can do that, and ultimately we'll have to wait and see if it works or not.